I'm Ross, a curious parent.
And I'm John, an education expert.
This is From the Sidelines.
Bite-sized study tips to help you help them through.
Hello, John.
Hey Ross, how are you doing? You feeling good?
I'm feeling very good, thank you. And following from our last episode, I'm feeling rather hydrated.
Very
today.
good. Well, I'm glad you're following the advice. And does that mean you're going to be able to concentrate on what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Not just concentration as well. Lots of other elements, in case you didn't know. Yeah, I'll refer you back to that episode, in fact. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good to see you. And one of the things that we're looking at today is something that I think we've all heard about and seen when we're talking about energy drinks and what this means. Are you feeling, though, before we get into that, energised and ready for this episode?
I'm completely energised.
Beautiful.
I've had a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
I've got a glass of water in front of me.
Hydration.
I feel motivated.
Good.
I feel ready and inspired. So yeah, let's do it.
Good. So we see a lot and we know a lot in terms of the energy drinks, what this could mean for us in terms of our health, health concerns. Now, I'm guessing there's a lot of issues with children consuming these in particular.
Correct.
Now, what impact can this have on children and their learning, first of all?
Okay. Well, what's really important to understand that generally it's as a replacement, or children use it as a replacement for a balanced diet. Okay, and that's not good in terms of health benefits, because there's a perceived lack of kind of readiness, or that I can skip breakfast, I don't need to have this because I can get an energy drink. It can give me the energy I require. Well, it's not that easy, as we know, and we could spend so much time looking into the real kind of negative health benefits of this. But it's not great for our children, and even more so when you to finish the question properly, when you talk about learning, it can be even worse if they become almost kind of hooked on energy drinks, thinking that they have to have them to be ready for school or an exam, because when they don't have one, they feel it's almost like a kind of placebo. They're actually, I haven't had that, so I won't be ready. And they then kind of get to that psychological factor where I have to have this, I need this to be able to kind of perform, when actually we know that isn't the case. Healthy diet, full hydration, etc., is all that they need. So yeah, really interesting when you start to unpick that, some of the psychological and physiological effects that it can have.
I'm guessing linking back to the habits, things we mentioned previously, the routines, this is technically one of those, but what we'd see as a bad one. So what are the dangers of energy drinks for young people?
First thing, I suppose, is that it's an extreme caffeine intake, because that's ultimately what an energy drink is. It's that big shot of caffeine that creates an energy spike. But that can then also lead to disrupted sleep patterns. It can then lead to kind of a false sense of kind of confidence and kind of energy. It can lead to impaired concentration or impaired sustained concentration. It might increase concentration immediately in terms of that kind of energy spike, but sustained concentration is not good. So yeah, those general health benefits, and that's not what we want for our children. We want them to be able to be to regulate their own bodies and not have to have a supplement, which is what it is, to get them to a place where they can actually perform their daily tasks.
Yeah, I'm obviously thinking about this in terms of an exam perspective. You mentioned there about energy spikes. I can't imagine that in an exam, having an energy spike midway through it is a great thing.
No, it's not at all. And if I just pull you up on one point there, when you said an energy spike midway through, the child doesn't consume the energy drink in the exam. They probably consume it on the way to the exam. So their energy spike probably, if we're thinking about it really, comes before the exam.
Good point. Yeah.
So they're wired as they're going into the exam hall, pointless.
Yeah.
And when the exam starts, that energy will start to kind of wean away, and they have what we call an energy crash. So that starts to kind of happen at some point. It might be, depending on when that drink was consumed, it might be half an hour in, an hour and a half into the exam. And when you think about it, and I know this from a teacher point of view, the way exams are written, quite often, the start of an exam, there are short, sharp answers, 1-word answers or 1-mark answers, 2 or 3 mark answers. Usually towards the end of the exam are the long written 10, 15, 20, 30 mark answers where it's required for you to write an essay. If your son or daughter is having an energy crash towards the end, when the hardest things and the things that they need to concentrate on and focus on for a long period of time are about to happen, that is exactly what you do not need. You absolutely don't want that to happen, because that energy crash is really then, it's just causing them a big problem, and their body starts to revert back to normal. So what ultimately happens is the energy kind of starts to wear off. They start to dip, they start to feel lethargic, they start to feel potentially dehydrated, they lose concentration, they become distracted, and then what happens? Here's the big question at the end. Unfortunately, that sometimes means that students give up too easy, they fold their arms, they do the bare minimum, and it's like, well, I was too tired at that point. Yeah. And they were wired 10, 20 minutes, half an hour before the exam. Well, actually, it's just not a good situation to be in.
No, and like I said at the start of this episode, I think the majority of adults understand that. We get it, don't we? We understand how energy drinks work and the creating that kind of the spike and the crash. But it's difficult, isn't it? Parent, carer, with a young person there who can technically make their own decisions in some ways, who say that they need an energy boost at some point in the day, and therefore it probably comes quite regular in terms of their day-to-day intake of stuff. What are the other alternatives then that are healthier that we could possibly look to get our child engaged with?
Okay. It's very, very simple, like almost like too simple. It's just the three, I would give the three, kind of the holy trinity almost, which is regular rest and sleep. And really good sleep patterns, and making sure that their body is well rested, that their repair, their growth happens overnight, they get regular rest and sleep, and that they're ready to go. The second part of that is making sure that they've got a good balanced diet, and that the nutrition is really, really good, so that they're fueling their body, with the right things, throughout the day. And then thirdly, hydration. Making sure that they're hydrated, making sure that they're taking on the right amount of water, so that they can concentrate, they can be, they can focus for long periods of time. And if they're telling you that they absolutely need energy drinks, the question I would be throwing back is, why don't you need energy drinks then as an adult? If you can survive through tough times, through demanding work situations, by sleeping well, by eating well, and by drinking well, there's the answer. It becomes a cycle. And going back to what I said at the answer to your first question, it becomes psychologically they think that they need, and they are almost hooked on, I need this and I need this. And if I don't, I remember when I played a lot of football, I got into a routine of eating a banana before I played football, because it's one of the quickest natural source of energy you can get. And I remember driving to a game once and forgetting to pick my banana up, and getting to the game and feeling totally out of sync, unprepared and stressed, because I didn't have, now the banana probably literally did nothing for my performance, but I thought it did. And I then was under pressure thinking, I need this. And again, that's what our children are saying to us. I think I need this. So removing those extra stimulants, those artificial stimulants, and having that healthy, regular diet, nutrition, and sleep schedule is far more important.
And also, I'm guessing it's one of those other points that we've mentioned throughout a lot of the episodes, which is it's often not about doing it quickly, it's doing it over time. So that gradual removal perhaps of those, or removing parts of it, so that eventually we're almost weaning them off that having to have that energy drink for performance.
Absolutely. And some of the last episodes we've recorded over the last few weeks, we've talked about the importance of breakfast.
Yeah.
Right? So if your child isn't having breakfast and isn't having a drink before they leave the house, and they're telling you they need an energy drink, well, replace it with breakfast and a drink then. If they're having cereal for breakfast, then it's a slow release energy source, as I mentioned in the podcast episode we talked about a while ago. So therefore, that slow release energy is sustaining their energy source throughout the morning. So they shouldn't need then a big massive hit at some point. If they're not staying up late and cramming, and that they have got good sleep schedule, and they've planned their study up until an exam, they're not going to be stressed. They're not suddenly thinking that I need to stay up late the night before an exam and I suddenly need a big energy hit the next morning. So all of these things together reduce the need to reach for an artificial stimulant that is ultimately replacing, realistically, poor planning, poor diet, poor nutrition, a poor lifestyle to a certain extent. Actually, let's start to change that and do the things that we know we've always been able to do for hundreds of years without the need for these realistically very modern artificial stimulants to try and get round or mask the need to not do what we know is right.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That kind of modern stimulant. And one of the things I would say as well is that, what we're looking to do here is create individual tips that are really useful on their own, but that ultimately, when we put those together, becomes that parenting carer's superpower, which is something that we're really keen to kind of get forward and get people to understand. And you've mentioned that there, haven't you? All these different pieces come together to mean that actually having energy drinks doesn't need to be part of that whole kind of equation, that preparation.
Yeah, it's a good analogy that actually, because this is almost one of the perfect strategies that if you do 2 or 3 things that we've talked about before this, you then don't need this.
Yeah.
But people think they need this because they aren't doing the 2 or 3 things before it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Brill. Thank you. I'm sure, again, a lot of people will resonate with it, will understand it, will have known that will always be something that their child shouldn't be consuming, but it's always difficult, isn't it, to have that conversation and make it happen. But again, as we've said throughout this, this is something that Parent and Carers, Champions Young People can take on board and really, really drive forward to make that positive difference.
Yeah, and I think just one thing to finish with, because when you mentioned there about how parents and carers can really take a key role in this, we've also mentioned previously about set meal times. So again, if you are controlling that in the house and you are having set meal times and you're making sure that they are regularly eating and drinking, then they don't need that. But when they are going 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, and people will probably associate with that, even if you're listening thinking, I know what John's saying is right, but I might drink energy drinks myself. It's almost kind of, well, why are you doing that? And it might be that, well, I've skipped a meal or I haven't had anything to eat. So again, it's that idea of I haven't had something, so I feel like I need something as a replacement. Well, actually, if you as the parent make sure that there isn't the skipped meal, it isn't 9 or 10 hours between kind of food, there is those regular kind of little and often kind of drinking, eating, et cetera, then hopefully there shouldn't be need to do that. So you're absolutely right. We can play a big, big part in this as parents.
Yeah, good point. Substituting something that your body really needs nutritionally for something that it doesn't, to replace that isn't a good strategy.
Correct.
I think we should set up a nutrition podcast after this one, actually. I think that'd be quite good, cookery or something like that. Thank you again for being with us. We're looking forward to seeing you again next time as we reach the final podcasts as this season approaches. But yeah, we hope you've taken that on board and that it's really useful advice. So thank you, John, as always.
You're welcome.
Thank you.